Welcome to Watch Me Go Broke. You know, Back to the Future is one of my favorite films of all time. And do you remember the scene where Marty is telling Doc the story that Doc told Marty about how he invented time travel? How he was standing on his toilet trying to hang a clock, and then he fell off and hit his head, and that's where he came up with the idea for the flux capacitor, which is what makes time travel possible. Well, this story is a lot like that, except for I didn't fall off a toilet. I mean, I have fallen off toilets, but many times, but not in the context of what this story is. It's a story about a bump on the head that made me think about doing this watch review channel. And I was wearing this watch. Let's awkwardly bend over a table and take a look. All right, guys, welcome to the show. And on my wrist today is my Citizen ProMaster Automatic with the 8 o'clock crown. Check out a review for that coming soon. And there is today's watch. This is going to be the San Martin 62 Mas Homage. Now, the 62 Mas was the first watch that Seiko had manufactured in the 1960s as their first dive watch. And this is an homage, I guess, of the re-release they did called the SLA 017. The SLA 017 is a very faithful recreation to the original 62 Homage, apart from the case size. The original was a bit smaller than the 40mm re-release. Now, I think everybody was excited when the SLA 017 came out. They thought, oh my gosh, they're reissuing the first diver that they ever did. Oh, I can't wait to get my hands on it. And then I was like, how much is this? $4,000? Are you insane? Yeah, an outrageous price. Outrageous. I don't know what Seiko was thinking with that, but they definitely dropped the ball. Just another case in a long line of ball dropping. Several companies took up the mantle of creating an homage to the SLA 017. One of those is San Martin. So you're looking at a 40mm case, a thickness of 13.5 millimeters. You've got a lug-to-lug of 48 millimeters, 20mm lugs tapering down to 18 at the clasp and back up to 22 at the clasp. Interesting choice there, why that would be wider than the 20mm lugs. All the indices are going to be filled with C3 Superluminova. You've got a ceramic bezel insert with a luminous pip, and it is a 120-click unidirectional bezel. Bezel is actually quite difficult to turn. Hopefully that will loosen up over time. I've seen some other reviews on this particular watch, and they all kind of say the same thing, that this bezel action, while good, is extremely hard to turn. So the watch is powered by a Seiko NH35 movement, beating at 21,600 vibrations per hour. You've got San Martin on the dial, a very uninspired logo below the 12 o'clock indices, and above the 6 o'clock index is water 200 proof, 24 joules. Looking at the screw-down case back, to me, that's pretty cool. You've got a diver's helmet with a couple of anchors jammed through it, which is kind of weird looking, but all stainless steel, diver's 200 meter, automatic NH35. Now, that's kind of, I guess, one of the bad things. I should save this to what I don't like about the watch, but it says diver's 200 meter. And in order to have a watch say diver's 200 meter, it is supposed to be certified by the International Scuba Organization, and this watch clearly is not. So I'm not sure how they do that. And I don't know if that's just on the dial. Like, it may just not be able to say divers on the dial, but maybe on the back, that's fine. I mean, people know 200 meters of water resistance. It's something that you can dive with. I don't think they needed to really put divers 200 on there. The bracelet is all stainless steel, solid end link. It does appear to be pin and collar. I actually purchased this off eBay, pre-owned, and the bracelet, lucky me, it just happened to fit my wrist perfectly. And of course the clasp, which is a really great clasp. This is going to be the same one that you see on a lot of strap code bracelets. Just a wonderful clasp, really solid, and 6 micro adjustments. I mean, that's like 2 links worth of adjustments that you can do with just this clasp. Looks great. A little scratched up because it is pre-owned, but I think that adds a little bit of charm to the watch. Drilled lug holes is always a bonus. So now I will get to the story of how I decided to start this channel, and it was based on something that happened to me with this watch. So long story short, I had a fire emergency at my place of employment, and when the employees came and told me that there was a fire, I quickly got up, grabbed a fire extinguisher. I was trying to make it to the fire, and there was some tile, and the sprinkler system had gone off, which for some reason I didn't realize or see, and I ended up slipping on it and falling directly backwards, and I hit my head on the concrete floor, which I'm told knocked me out for a few seconds. I don't recall that. I recall just getting immediately back up. But apparently I was knocked out. But anyway, once I got back up, I put out the fire. But I mean, the sprinklers were going off. There's smoke everywhere. Fire extinguisher, powder all over the place. Really just an interesting situation to be in. But when I looked down at this watch, it was just covered in fire extinguisher powder, covered in nasty sprinkler water, and it had gotten soaked. I mean, I was standing in those sprinklers for a good amount of time. No problems with the watch, and there shouldn't be with 200 meters of water resistance. But it did take a tumble. Like I said, I knocked myself out, I guess, and I know that my hands and the watch had actually hit the floor. There's a few scratches. But this is actually the mineral crystal version as well. And you can see the mineral crystal, not a scratch on it. So far, it's holding up very well, especially in a situation like that. But anyway, as a result of my fall, I got a concussion, which if you guys have ever had a concussion, it sucks. Because you feel fine, but then all of a sudden, everything is just too much for you. Like your brain's going to short out, like you're in an overload situation. You have to calm down, sit down, shut your eyes. It's very, very frustrating. But during that time, I thought, hey, this watch was so cool, and I should have taken a picture when it was covered with all that junk. It just looked so awesome. And I thought, wow, if a watch like this can withstand something like that and just create a bond with someone, because I am for life bonded with this watch. I don't think I will ever part with it because of what happened to me while I was wearing it. It's just something that is just really cool, and I know things like that happen to a lot of folks with watches, and watch bonding is part of the love of horology and why we love watches so much, because we create so many memories, good and bad, with the watches. And it's just something that it's just a piece that you know, it's rare to have a piece of like jewelry or something like that that is can be so sentimental like a watch can be. But full disclosure, the first couple episodes of this show, I had a concussion when I did them, and I'm sure that that is probably apparent if you look back through the archives. A little bit of weirdness in those, but I don't know. I don't know how much of that is the concussion and how much of it is me. But let's get to what I like about this watch. Well, I like that it's rugged and durable, obviously. I already stated that. Ceramic bezel, always great. Great movement. I love the dial, the sunburst gray. It looks just gorgeous. And really in any light, even in low lights, you can still tell it's gray. Sunlight, it looks absolutely beautiful. I love the handset and the indices. I mean, it's very faithful to the original 62 Homage that it's homaging. The bracelet is fantastic, very comfortable, with a wonderful clasp. That's, you know, really probably the clasp that I would say most micro brands should use. It's just, it looks cool and it's very functional. The case back, obviously, to me, that's really cool. I think in some of these later versions of this watch they're making, it's a shark or something like that. So they've taken this off. I'm not sure why. Maybe folks complained that it wasn't stainless steel back, but I think it looks cool. So the negatives about the watch, the logo, there really isn't a logo, just standard font there. I know you can get them without the logo completely, which honestly, I don't know why anybody would ever do that. I think the more writing on a dial, most of the time, the cooler it looks. The bezel, I think it does need work. The bezel action, I don't know if they need to put a new click ring under there or a new friction gasket or something to make it just a little bit less resistant. But over time, it should loosen up. This watch should really be a strap monster, and it's not. And the reason I say that is because the spring bars are very, very close to the case. I don't know if you can tell how close they are, but fitting a NATO through those is very difficult to do. The NATO has to be very, very thin. And then once it's on the NATO, it just doesn't sit right. I think a single pass NATO is definitely the way to go with this watch. If you use the traditional G10 style, it's just gonna sit weird. It just does not look right like some of the other watches. Very square lugs, very square to the case, so it's not rounded, so you don't have any sort of really give at all when you're wearing a NATO with it. But I don't know. This is just a personal preference. I just don't think this watch looks good on NATOs. Rubber straps, however, really, really great. And that's predominantly how this watch comes. I think on Amazon right now, Amazon Prime, you can get this watch at $225 on a rubber waffle strap. And there it is on my 7¼ inch wrist for reference. I don't know. I think it just fits comfortably. The 48mm lug to lug distance is just about as far as I really should go for my wrist size, but I think it looks great. Well, there you go, the San Martin 62 Mas Homage. I think it's a great watch, and I can't see spending $3,000 for something that you could get for just a little over $200, and it's virtually the same. So until next time, I'm going to stay away from fire extinguishers, and just take it easy. I'll see you in the next video.